Welcome to our podcast. My name is Don Gertz, and I'm here today with my friend Ray Yenkana. Ray and I were once partners in a real estate office, and our friendship actually began over 30 years ago, and it continues today, making him still a partner in spirit. We've both been in real estate world for quite some time, and I think I have a bit more tenure than Ray. He has a remarkable journey that spans nearly 40 years. 40 years that, from my perception, has been a pretty exciting ride for him. I invited Ray to join this interview to shed some light on how the real estate market and the industry have evolved over the years and some of the main changes that new realtors will see today and what they'll find the most challenging. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Ray so that he can introduce himself and to share some of his valuable insight.
So yeah, I'm Ray Yenkana. I've been in the business actually for 38 years, started in 1985. And basically I did property management for the first 2 years and leasing. So I kind of started like a commercial realtor, and actually I managed and ran a commercial brokerage. I wasn't the managing broker, but I just kind of ran the operations of the company. And then that just led to me getting my sales license. A couple of years later, into it, I got my sales license, and then I started selling. And make a long story short, I ended up buying the brokerage I worked for, became a broker, realized that the money was in sales, not in brokering. So I got a partner who ran the office, and I continued to sell real estate for a while. And then I was up in Fort St. John. Then I got a little bored, and Don's dad, his name was Don Sr., called me one day and said, "Ray, you should come on down here in Abbotsford and buy the office." And I came and had a visit with him. And Don Sr. had a line he used on me. I guess he probably knew I knew the line, so he used it on me. He said, "Ray, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting. So you're going to have to do something different. You want to get a different result." So I came to see him, and make a long story short, he kind of talked me into buying the office, which took me about a day to decide. And then Don Jr., just this Don that we're talking to, he became my partner, and then we had the office together for quite a while. And then I bought Don out, and then I ran it on my own, and then now I have a partner. His name's Andrew Bracewell, and Andrew and I run the office, and we're busy growing it.
Thanks, Ray. That's great. So you've been in the business for a long time, with different business partners, and you've seen a lot of different things. How would you describe what some of the differences or what would your perspective be on the real estate industry, how the real estate industry is changing today, and what trends do you see that are changing in it?
Well, probably the biggest thing, of course, is technology, the internet. There's some things that we have today that we didn't have back then. And so if we wanted to do marketing, we were limited to the printed page, the newspaper, flyers, that type of thing. Whereas today, you can still use those things, and I think they definitely have a place, but there's not it's not as strong a place as using the internet and using video and using social media platforms and that type of thing, right? And there's so many different technologies so that you can reach more people and stay in touch with the people that you already know. That's one of the major differences. So if you get into the real estate business and you're not going to have, you either have to have a little bit of tech savvy yourself, just a little bit, or you definitely need to have an assistant or work in a brokerage where you're going to have help and there's people doing stuff for you. And our brokerage is one of those places. I mean, I can safely tell you that if you wouldn't have to look very far in British Columbia, for that matter, you wouldn't have to look very far in Canada to realize that our brokerage has a very, very strong social media presence. But I have a pretty strong social media presence myself, and so do a number of the agents in the office. And for us, it's not a it's for us it's not like an optional thing. I mean, of course, it is optional, but for us, it's more like a mandatory thing because if something works and you're not doing it, what are you doing?
That's right. Doing videos. I mean, for example, doing videos today, it seems to be the way to do things, and somebody else's or my competitors' poor video is better than the video that I haven't done. Period.
I love it when people criticize my video. I'm going, thanks. Really? You watched my poor video with the lousy sound, and I was in the park, and you can hear the wind blowing. But my competitors all the other brokers around and most of the real estate agents, they didn't make any video. And the other thing I like, this is what I tell agents. This is what I tell agents today. So you asked me about what are some of the differences. Back in the day, everybody would have a brochure. Like you had to have. If you were anybody, you needed to have at least a trifold brochure. And again, even back then, most people just had a business card. But I always knew that I should have a brochure. Well, how about today? If you don't have a digital brochure, I say to agents all the time, I say, when somebody clicks on your website, is the first thing that happens you're talking to them? And they look at me like, no. So if you have a website and people land in your website and you don't say hello and start talking to them, introduce yourself, you might as well take the thing down. Nobody wants to read. Nobody wants to read your resume or how great you are or how many homes you sold. Nothing. They don't want to read any of that stuff. They just want to hear.
Yeah, that's right. People don't really seem to be all that interested in reading today, and video seems to be so much more prevalent. I like to read, and I know you read a lot, but today it's so convenient to listen to the Audible books, that we have available. How important do you think our intake of information, and does it matter which way we bring it in? Which way do we take it? Is it better with video, or does it matter?
Well, I like to read books, but here's the thing. At the end of the day, I mean, I enjoy a good book and I enjoy going over, reading something and I didn't quite get it. I read it over again. I enjoy that. Take some notes, look things up. I enjoy that. I still do it. But if your goal is to learn a bunch of stuff as quickly as possible, and if you've come across an author, a speaker, a mentor, a trainer, whatever, and you want to get what's in that guy's head into you, you want to get it while you're driving or when your mind's occupied with something else or you know what I'm saying? You want to get that stuff audio. And, back in the day, we would say you got to turn drive time into learn time. University on wheels. Zig used to call it University on wheels.
Yeah, yeah. Back in the day, everybody was selling these cassette tapes, and you and I are old enough to actually know what the cassette tapes are. But the important thing to note is that how important it is to be continually striving to improve ourselves. Are you seeing people still wanting to get into real estate? I mean, you hear so many different conflicting stories about our market. The market is this, interest rates are that. So there's all these different challenges that realtors may be experiencing in the business. So are you still seeing a lot of people wanting to get into the real estate business?
I see them almost weekly. Matter of fact, I have a whole bunch of automatic responses that I have ready to send to people because I mean, there's some weeks I could be getting 3, 4, 5 inquiries from people that want to know about getting into real estate, want to know about joining our office. So I have to have stuff that's ready to send to them. And I did one this morning, either this morning or last night. I can't remember. Maybe it was last night. In the last 12 hours, anyway, I did one. And but I always take the time to read because when they come to us and they're coming through one of our websites or one of the company Royal LePage's websites that come to our area, they'll always ask them, why do you want to do it? And I see this quite often. I see this a lot, this comment. I want to have freedom of time. I want to be in charge of my time. I don't want to have some situation where I go and work for the man for 8 hours a day and I'm stuck there. I want to be in charge of my time. So that, I mean, over the years, you probably heard that as much as I've heard it. People want to be their own boss. They want to have plan their own time. And so even though the world has changed, no, there's still younger people. I mean, we just signed up. I don't say hired. We just signed a couple of agents in the last week that were in their early to mid 20s. One of them was in grade 4. I mean, not grade 4, fourth year university. One's in fourth year university. She's still going to graduate, but she's thinking like, do I want to go look for a job, or when I could create a business in real estate that pays me every bit as good or more than the job?
Yes. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. People like to be in control of their own time, but that really can be a blessing or a curse, don't you think?
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you can't control yourself now, like you have to analyze, you have to do a self-assessment. If you don't control your life today, like in other words, if you are not the manager of your life, your time, and what you do, you get a real estate license, you're going to just be the same way. And so, for a lot of people, they need some kind of structure until they develop the character or they become the kind of person that can have time as their servant rather than time as their master. You know what I'm saying? So you sometimes have to go through a stage where, we used to tell the agents, the new agents, you should show up at the office every day. Well, you know what? 30 some years later, I tell some of the new people, you know what? You're probably best off to show up at the office and develop a bit of a routine. Maybe even have an office there where you come in and you make your calls. But if you're self-disciplined, you notice I dropped the line, make your calls. I dropped the line, make your calls, only because most people who get into real estate business, they think somehow or other they got a license and people are going to come knocking at the real estate office door and ask for them or ask for a realtor, and it's going to be your turn. So unless you're prepared to call, get a hold of people, reconnect with people, you're going to sit there and do nothing.
It's interesting what people think.
So
So what is the best advice that you could give or would give to someone that's brand new that came in and said, "Hey Ray, I'm thinking of getting into real estate. Is now a good time to do that?" What would you say to them?
I matter of fact, I just answered that question for somebody this week. I said to them, "Well, one of the good things is you won't have much competition if you want to do this." And they looked at me like, "What do you mean you won't have much competition? I heard there's like 5,000 members on the board." As a matter of fact, I said, "Let me help you." I said, "Not only is there 5,000 plus members in our real estate board in the Fraser Valley, right next door to us in Vancouver, there's probably a little over 20,000, maybe even 21,000 members of that board. So right in the Lower Mainland is in excess of 26,000 realtors in just in our within 100 miles of where we live in the Lower Mainland." I said, "But you won't have much competition." I said, "The reason is half those people won't sell anything this year, nothing. The other half of them, will think they're having a good year if they did 3 or 4 deals." So now we've wiped out 75% of the people with licenses. So now, if you don't have a lot of competition, and if you're prepared to work, and if you're a quick study, get a mentor. A lot of times I see people they get their license and they're looking for a place to hang. Here's the problem: they're insecure. They have no self confidence. They're not sure if they can make it. You know how I know? Because I used to be the same way. Matter of fact, when I started in the business, I had no idea whether I could make it or not. Matter of fact, the words out of my mouth when I got my license and I started it, and I spoke to people that I knew, I said, "Well, I want to try it out. I'm going to try it out." Who doesn't want to try it out? So that's all you're capable of having in your head is, "I want to try it out." But if you're going to try it out, I always think about fishing. The phrase, I fished all over the world. And when I came to the Fraser Valley, I went fishing on the Fraser River, and we were fishing for salmon that are coming up to go, spawn. And I had never seen this type of fishing ever before in my life, because what they're doing is they're actually throwing their line out with a big heavy weight, and the weight bounces along the bottom. They call it bottom bouncing. The weight bounces along the bottom, and the leader goes out from the weight, and it's in the water, and it's got some kind of a sparkly thing on it or whatever, the bait. And maybe the salmon's attracted and they go near it, and the line comes through the mouth of the salmon. The salmon's coming up the river, and they happen to hit in the line, and we catch them, but learning how to cast that thing out with the weight and not get it to snag in your reel, they call it bird's nesting. I've seen guys go there by themselves, and they're ready to break the rods and throw the whole thing in the river and walk away. It's so frustrating. When I went with a friend of mine who knows how to do it. He gave me 2 or 3 lessons on how to do it. That's called mentoring. He mentored me how to, because there's a series of steps on how to make that cast and stop the line from turning, engage the reel, and not get that mess. And it took me a few tries. I had a mess a few times, but today I can safely tell you, I can go to the river and I can cast. I can probably cast all day, never have a problem, because I had a mentor that showed me how to do it. And the easiest, quickest way to learn anything, learn how to mechanic, learn how to sell real estate, get around people that are doing it and get around people that are good at it. And that's one of the benefits that we've had at our office. Our brokerage is full of those kind of guys. When the new guys come in, besides the training sessions that we have, the guys get to see the pros in action. They get to rub shoulders with the pros. And when you rub shoulders with the pros and they make it look so easy, you think you develop a belief you don't have when you come. When you come, your belief system is low. But when you see guys that put their pants on one leg at a time, they're just ordinary guys. They've just been doing it longer than you. And when you see the way they do it, you go, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's a great day. That's a great day when you get that belief in your head.
That's interesting. We've seen a lot of people come through the business and start in the business. And I think a statistic that I read from National Association of Realtors down south says that 85% of all realtors who start in the business will be out of the business in 5 years. So it's a high turnover rate. What, which is kind of alluding to the statistics that you were giving, where half of the people aren't going to sell something this year, and then half of those, the next half, are only going to sell about 3 or 4 houses.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of people come through, and some are successful and some not so much. So is there a certain personality type you think is going to make it, or does that matter? Like some people might say, well, I'm kind of introverted, I don't do people well, or you have. Is there a certain personality style that you would say is more geared for it, or does that really matter?
Let me help. Let me answer by saying, you don't have any control over your personality style. Everybody's born with a certain personality style. So you didn't choose the type of personality that you have. It was given to you. I don't know. You say God gave it to you, right? Everybody's got a certain style. It's not necessarily even genetic like it is with looks or with other physical traits. Other physical traits are like sometimes they're genetic. You look at somebody and say, man, I've seen guys in a coffee shop on the highway, and I had to go up to them and say, are you related to so and so? And they go, yeah. How'd you know? I said, I took one look at you. And they're going, seriously? I said, yeah, I can tell just by looking at you. You have such a strong resemblance. That's happened to me several times, and people that are with me are blown away. I mean, I was passing through Saskatoon one day, and I saw a guy and his wife in the Dairy Queen, and we were just passing through. We stopped to get a bite to eat, and I said to the folks that were with me, I said, "Doesn't that guy look like our friend Brian?" And they said to me, "Ray, you're nuts." I said, "Well, I'm going to go over and ask him." I went over and asked him, and he was just blown away. He says, "Yeah, Brian's my cousin," and yeah, that's genetics. So personality is I don't know how it's assigned. I have no idea how it's assigned. So, if you understand DISC assessments, I'm a DISC trainer myself, so I study DISC and I study personality. And basically, number one, you should understand your style. So that's number one. Number two, you should understand that every style, they're comfortable with certain things. And you should always work in the areas that you're comfortable and in the areas where you're gifted. And so once you understand your style, and this is what I would rather do it this way, and other people would rather do it the other way. But if you do it, you are going to make contact. And if you do anything long enough, you're going to get results. So like you were talking about the quitting rates, the actual stats that I've seen recently in the real estate industry is about 16, it's about 16% turnover rate year in, year out. I was teasing one of my buddies in a particular brokerage where they're having a lot of turnover. And I asked him, I said, do you realize what the stat is in your brokerage, in your brand? And he said, yeah, I know. He knew. Their particular brand has like a 30% turnover, almost twice the nation's average in other brokerages, right? But that's just the way it is. I mean, because people, when you come in, it's hard work, and you have to work on yourself harder than you work on the job. Because yeah, there's going to be challenges. It doesn't matter what personality style what you have. You're going to have to figure out what the challenges are. How do I address people? And hey, everybody I talk to, I'm not always going to talk to people that are my style. So I've got to learn how to adapt and speak to people the way they like to be spoken to, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I was watching some disc training the other day from the people who I got certified with, and it was fascinating because the people that are the most successful in sales are the ones who are able to blend their style the best. They're able to blend or adapt their style to match that of their clients. Because people really want to buy from people that are like them. So if you're a bombastic D type of personality and are dealing with a much more reserved style personality, your success is going to depend on how much you're able to blend or match theirs. You need to become who we need to become who our clients need us to be.
Well, 100% I agree with it, because it doesn't matter what your personality is. If you've got goals and aspirations, there's going to be obstacles in the road all day, every day. And so my first question to people is, are you going to get thrown off the road because of the obstacle, or are you going to be persistent? See, there's nobody that's anybody that's made anything that didn't fall flat on their face. I still remember the first time, I still remember the listing presentation I didn't get. I remember that. I should have got it. It was one of my first ones. I should have got it, but I didn't get it. And they were nice. They let me down easy and sent me home. And I said to myself that day, this is not going to happen again. I've got to fix what I do. I got to fix what I say, and I've got to raise the game, raise the bar. I can't be discouraged by the fact I didn't get that listing. Well, I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I got over that, because I went on to list hundreds, if not thousands, of properties, and be successful at getting them sold. So all I'm saying is everybody falls flat in their face. And are you going to get up and get going? Everybody can learn to say it better. So communication skills, learning how to say it better. Now, when it comes to another thing that's great in helping you be successful is, we learned it as children. I love to listen to kids when you ever go through a grocery store and the kids going, Mom, can I get that toy? Or Mom, can I get this? Mom, can I get this? Mom, can I get this? And it doesn't matter how many times mom or dad says no, the kid doesn't know what no means. Has no idea what no means, because 2 seconds later, Mom, I really want that. See, so the kid's persistent, doesn't understand no. When you realize that in real estate sales or in any sales business, when somebody says no, you have got to hear later. Whenever people tell me no, I think, well, what he means is like, not right now. Like when I talk to people about joining the brokerage, and they're at some brokerage where they're not doing very good, they never go, yeah, I want to leave right away, because that's where they're comfortable. So they say, Ray, can we, I'll have to think about it. I said, of course, I understand. See, now I just say, of course, I take your time. Take your time. Now, some people might think that's a no. I think it is a later, because most sales, now this is a proven fact. And so if you're doing real estate sales or any sales, you've got to make you might have to go past 6 or 7 no's until you work your way up to a yes. So the only way that's going to happen is if you persist, and if you have communication skills, and you have a follow up system in place, some sort of follow up system. And over those 5 or 6 times, you might actually learn to say it better. You might actually find out what's the right button to press that makes the prospect go, yeah, Ray, I think I'm going to do it. I think we're ready to list the house. So yeah, there's some skills and there's some attitudes. I've been doing a little bit of a series on this on my Instagram and on my LinkedIn and on my TikTok. So if you look me up, Ray Yenkana, you'll see me all over the place. And if you follow some of those videos, you'll kind of get an idea what I do and how I help agents develop.
Okay, I'll put Ray's links in the comments below. But I always liked what Brian Buffini had to say. I mean, you're familiar with Brian and his courses, and he always says that you have to do six things. You have to do the calls, you have to do the notes, and you have to do the pop buys, and then you have to work on your habits, your attitudes, and your skills. Those six things: habits, attitudes, and skills, and calls, notes, and pop buys. Just, I mean, you might not do the calls and notes and pop buys exactly the way that Ray and I would, but calls and notes and pop buys are totally different, depending on your personality. And someone else is going to do them different. But that's what's important, is to recognize what your strengths are and to operating in your strengths, so that different personality styles have different strengths. So work in your strengths, and don't try to be somebody that you're not. And what I think is important is that you need to be yourself. One thing I'd say about Ray, that I've known him for over 30 years, is Ray is always about other people. He wants to help other people be successful. He's done it himself, and he wants to be able to transfer that knowledge to you. So if you are looking for someone to mentor you, Ray Yenkana is your guy. And he'll do whatever he can to help you be successful. So, Ray, you've been a great partner, and you were a great partner, and you're a better friend. And I so appreciate having you with me, or having you on this interview. And just in closing, yeah, we want to give just a quick word of advice to anybody that's thinking about getting into the real estate.
Well, the one word of advice would be, real estate can be such a life changing career for you and for your family, that if you ever think about doing it and you say, I'm gonna get in, give yourself every advantage you possibly can, and get around the people who are successful, who are doing it at a high level, and learn how to do it. And then once you learn how to do it, then it's something you're comfortable with, and you look back and think, boy, I'm glad I paid whatever price. And don't judge what you do by the first 6 months, the first year, or even the first 2 years. It takes time to develop the skills that you need to play in this field. Just the same as you would need take time to develop the skills to do anything in a professional level. So give yourself a break. In other words, don't be too hard on yourself, and give yourself a little bit of time, and you'll get some small victories, and then eventually you'll get some big victories. You'll knock it out of the park.
Well, thanks, Ray, for joining us today, and I hope you listeners have gleaned some of the wisdom from this man, and I look forward to meeting up with him again. So take care and have a wonderful day.
No problem. Talk to you soon.